going on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you guys another rendition of Phantom Knights. So I want to go ahead and bring you guys another Phantom Knight build going into 2025. Yes, we are still playing Phantom Knights in 2025, but we are able to compete. We are able to keep the deck relevant, and we are able to keep up with the format, which is really nice thanks to other engines that we are utilizing obviously in the deck. And we are utilizing some of the newer cards as well from the most recent set. So I want to go ahead and bring you guys my most recent and I feel like most competitive Phantom Knight list going into this current format, especially considering how it's being played. We, want to utilize as many options as we do have from, obviously losing the game. And, there are a lot of cards right now that do hurt us, unfortunately. Things like Lancia, things like Shifter that Malice are playing, or things that people are siding against Malice, even Chaos Hunter. So you want to make sure that you are able to compete. And unfortunately, with playing a deck that does also get hurt by, other side cards in the meta, it can be quite difficult to obviously compete. So I feel the build that I'm currently playing is the more competitive build for what we're playing if you are utilizing the engines that I am utilizing. But I do enjoy it, and I do think it's very strong. It has a great end board. It is able to play through a lot. It is also able to play, into a board, obviously, since we are playing Phantom Knights. But I'll definitely explain everything, and I'll provide a little bit of a combo video just so you guys can get a little bit of an understanding of how the end board is made, or how some of the cards are utilized, of course. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll jump right into the deck profile. Alrighty, so as always, we'll go ahead and start with the Phantom Knight cards. So we've got our 3 Torn Scale. We are utilizing the 3 Torn Scale just because he is technically a starter. He's not a 1-card starter, but he is a starter. Nonetheless, pitching Cloak in order to get our boots to set up our whole board. We've got our 3 boots that we're utilizing. Of course, this one usually you're playing it at 2, but at 3 in here because we're not playing Adventure. Then we've got our 3. We've got our 2 Cloak. I'm playing 2 Cloak instead of 1 because Bestials are so dominant right now. And we do need to see at least 1 in order to set up our board. So I am playing 2 just in the event that we do get 1 in the grave early and our opponent's Bestial it, we are able to send the second. The same concept with playing Levier as well, just to kind of recur some of our names. We've got our 1 Gloves, our 3 Fog and 1 Wings. We're always playing 3 Fog unless we have to cut down on the traps for whatever combo reason. The 1 Wings, of course, for full extension. So that's all we're playing for names. We don't need Stain Greaves, just because we're not really utilizing the special summon ability of the Phantom Knights that frequently for us to be worried about having to use our boots early. Then we'll go ahead and do the Goblin Biker engine. So we are playing 2 Grand Entrance, 2 Breakout, 2 Charger, 1 Golden Wild, 1 Sploder, and 1 Merciless. So the reason why we're playing this number for the Goblin Bikers is because we are trying to avoid bricking, as well as, not seeing certain cards that we do need. So Entrance is really good for playing into a board, especially with the Yugioh matchup. You're able to pretty much pull monsters off of their attachments. This also does allow you to recur cards to hand, which can be very important because we do pitch a lot of cards depending on how you're setting up your board. So you do need to have access to cards or fodder to pitch, which our Phantom Knights are really good for. But we want to make sure that every option is utilized here. But again, the first and second effect allows you to be able to detach from our opponent's XYZ monsters as well as our own, which is obviously very good this format. Breakout is the card that we're playing that allows us to basically utilize the entire Goblin engine. So we're playing 2 just in case the first one gets ashed, and we do have the ability to obviously play the second. 2 Charger, I felt like 3 was too many. 2 is enough just because obviously, we're playing basically 4 copies of it. And then on top of that, if you do, open it, you are able to summon it off your opponent's XYZs, and it is a 1-card starter. So again, I think 3 is fine just to kind of keep our numbers really good. 1 Gone Wild. A lot of people play 2. I like playing 1 just because there's never really a reason to play more than 1 in my opinion. You can't brick on it as long as you're playing these. And then of course, it's not great to start with, so that's why I don't like playing 2. But 1 I think is fine. This is the replacement for it, is Merciless. I like Merciless because it has many applications. Floater you use obviously for the main combo as well, but Merciless, he's great for having the additional extension. So sometimes what may happen is you may have some of the combo pieces in your hand. Merciless allows you to pull them and gives you an additional body. So in the event, let's say you have Sploder in hand with this entire combo, or even Gone Wild, being able to have Merciless allows you to basically give you an additional body and unbrick your board. So if we have these in hand, you're able to go, whatever you need to, Charger, get Breakout, activate for this. Then you're summoning Merciless, and this is going to summon this, and then this is going to summon this, and this is going to summon this. So you have 4 bodies. And the same thing goes the other way. If you have the if you have this in hand, so then you're obviously going to go Breakout into Wild into Merciless into Sploder into Charger. So that's why we're utilizing the numbers the way that we are. And I think that's more important than playing double Gone Wild, just because of the fact that if this does get banished, like, you don't care. There's never a moment in the line of where you're doing the combo where this is at a potential of being, you know, Bishield, because it's never going to hit the grave prior to what you're using it for. It's great for recursion because there are actually cool lines that I can show you for the end board that do allow you to get additional interruptions. But you don't need more than one copy of this, in my opinion, if you're playing Merciless. Plus, Merciless on your turn creates an extender. So you are able to actually detach from your own XYZ monsters to summon it. It's a Fiend, which is great for Shadow, and it's also a level 3. So, I mean, being able to utilize this in many ways as far as unbricking and extension is actually really insane. And I think it's definitely worth playing, you know, again, just for the many applications that it can be used. So we are playing an additional engine in this build. We are playing 2 Diabell Star Witch, 3 Deception, and 1 Azamina Spell. So I wanted to play a small package for an additional Omni or an additional negate. I originally was going to go with Horus, but I felt like Horus discards too many cards. This also does get you through 2, but you also get extra bodies. So the difference with Horus is that when you're setting up a negate, you lose the 2 bodies for an XYZ monster, which is nice for the Goblin Biker package. The issue with it for this deck is that you do sometimes open up free summons or free cards that you absolutely need to pitch early. So, for example, if you open up a Terror Top or you open up just even Charger or the Spell, you technically don't need to use your PK names. So you have them sitting in hand, and there's really no real way to utilize getting them out of hand. So I wanted something that would allow us to translate those cards into bodies or into Omnis that makes it harder for our opponent to answer us. And if we are playing this, the only thing that this makes us lose harder into is Droll, which the deck already loses to Droll if you don't see Breakout before the Droll. So there's no reason to not play into it. And then, of course, this does bait Ash as well, just because of the Sinful Spoils into the Azamina. They know you're going to get an Omni. So a lot of times you can bait the Ash if you don't see any additional protection from hand traps. So I do like this engine a lot. It has definitely been worth it, just because of the fact that you don't have to, send Black Witch off the Deception. You can Black Witch, Deception, send something from hand, and then you have the 2 free bodies or 1 free body with your Omni, because we are only playing the Sylvia for this package. Also, I'm doing 3 Deception and 2 Diabell Star Black Witch, because Black Witch can pitch anything, but Deception is better for its value. So like if I hard draw this, it's harder for my opponent to answer this because they need to have Ash or they need to have Ogre. There's only 2 answers to this. So once I get my Omni out, you're already facing an Omni and I can just start playing. Whereas this has more interruptions to it. But also, again, the ability to pitch cards is very important. And we're mostly wanting to pitch monsters. So this pitches our monsters, this pitches our traps for protection against Bishield. So I like this package a lot. Again, it gets us a lot to grave for what we need and gives us access to an Omni. And that's all we're playing it for. It's just extension and Omnis. So then we have the 3 Speedward Terror Top 1 Taki Tomborg. Pretty standard. I love this card, obviously in PK, just because it's a free body. And we are actually utilizing the other Shadow, Gossip Shadow, the level 3, just because we do sometimes just have free level 3s. So this gives us protection as well. We are playing Graf and Sir. So we did bring them back just because of the fact of Shadow. Our lines allows us to be able to utilize the Burning Abyss monsters very easily because our Cherubini Send actually has little to no value. The only amount of value that it does have is putting a PK name in grave, and if we already didn't open one in our hand, then that's the only time that we'll want to see an additional name. And I can show you a line where you're able to kind of play around that. But this is really strong, honestly. And I'll show you the lines for it, but this is very strong for playing into a board and setting up a board. It's absolutely great, honestly. And I don't miss not playing them. I know they can be bricks, but there's many ways to discard them to find the right, timing to obviously utilize them. Then we also have our 1 reinforcement. Then we're also playing 3 crossout and 1 call by. As I said, we wanted to maximize on the amount of protection that we do have for being able to complete our combo. So Rhoda fits into both engines. Obviously, it works for Phantom Knights and for the Goblin Charger, as he's a warrior. Crossout Designator and Call By gives us maximum protection from hand traps, because we do want to make sure that we are resolving Breakout. We don't really care about nib too much. There's only one window where we can get nibbed where it may potentially hurt, depending on what we've committed to and the protection we have. Otherwise, Droll's the only thing that hurts us prior to resolving Doug for Breakout. So if we get the Breakout, we're generally very good and we're in a good position to just full combo. So we do want to have protection. We're also playing 2 talents because, again, we want protection. We want to be able to look at our opponent's hand. We want to avoid Bishields if we can. Bishields don't hurt this build very much because, again, we're not really utilizing the graveyard when we're setting up our board. It's mostly for the end. So it's nice to be able to, let our opponent hit us with real hand traps and then rip the Bishields with talents. And then we're also, this is primarily mostly our going first cards, just so that we have the kind of protection that we do need. Because obviously going second, Phantom Knights are very good for breaking a board. Because of course we have cards like 3 Droplet. which is very, very good. You know, obviously in this format, it's necessary because people are playing Dweller. People are also, you know, making pretty good end boards. So we want to have as much, you know, way of being able to stop our opponent's boards as possible. We've got our 3 Ash Blossom because obviously Mulch Armies are still cards, and we want to make sure that we have answers to those. And then we have our crossout targets, 1 Droll, 1 Nib, 1 Imperm. We don't really care about anything else. Ash, I know Valor is being played because of Malice with people playing Bestials. People are opting to do Valor over Imperm. I would consider doing that, maybe putting a Valor in the side just so that we have the option to stop it. But I feel like Imperm is still much stronger. And we actually have a harder time negating Imperm over anything else because most of the negates that we do have are monster effect negates. Like Gossip Shadow only changes the effect of a monster effect. So having crossout for Imperm is actually very important. Valor, again, we don't care too much, but we just want to make sure that our Bardiche resolves and the Breakout resolves. As long as those 2 cards resolve, you know, we're full force and we're, you know, obviously doing everything we need to. So main deck is 50 cards. I like 50 just because we are playing a couple of Garnets, not a lot and not as many as we would Adventure, but obviously there are still Garnets. So we want to make sure this is as consistent as possible. So let's go into the extra deck. We've got our Gossip Shadow. Like I said, we are using it as protection. Most of the time this comes up when we see a Speedroid Terratop, just because Speedroid Terratop, you go into this for the protection and then you just start playing everything else. He does require you to detach 2, so he can be a little difficult to try and abuse when it comes to the Goblin monster effects. So generally, once he's on the board, you know, you use him for the negate, and then from there, if you end up using his effect, you just link him off for your combo. We are playing the 1 Leviair. I wanted to have the ability of having access to recursion. Also, sometimes you can make Leviair use the Goblin monsters to kind of piggyback off the Leviair, as well as the Take Tomborg. So it is really nice to actually have, but generally it's just kind of there for extension and to bring back, you know, important cards. 2 Breaksword, always playing at least 2 Breaksword for our combos to set up and to play into a board. An important piece is the Gabanga. This allows us to search our Charger, which gets us into our full combo. He's also very important for our end board as well, because we are able to utilize him for our end board. So he is definitely a necessary card as well. Then we have Raiders Knight into Arc Rebellion. This is obviously our OTK for going second or for the rebuttal. Then we'll get into our links. We've got our Cherubini. We've got our IP Masquerena, our SP Little Knight. We are playing Dark Charmer just because people are back on dark cards, of course, with Mitsurugi running around, you know, and Malice obviously being a deck. So we want to make sure that we have access to dark because we are also playing access code. So, you know, being able to climb obviously is very important. And if we have the ability to climb in 2 different directions without having to always utilize Cherubini, it makes it easier for us because then we can kind of just throw just 2 bodies into a Dark Charmer, you know, force an access code. And then, you know, after that, if they find an out to it, we just go Cherubini and then kill them with everything else. We are playing Shadow, we are playing Bardiche, and then we are playing the Sylvia. So this is our extra deck lineup. 15 of course. So let me go ahead and let me spend a little time showing you guys how we're basically doing the combo for Aboa. Because it is important, you are setting up Shadow before you're actually getting to your Bardiche. So it provides additional protection. So let me go ahead and showcase this for you guys. Alrighty, so standard combo, I'm just gonna I just grabbed 5 cards, but I grabbed important ones just to kind of, you know, go through the idea of why we're playing certain cards and how we would do certain things. So as I said, the Speedroid Terratop, it gives us the option to be able to set up an Omni. So if you're opening up something like this, where you know you have playability, you can go ahead and just use your Speedroid Terratop, get your Take Tomborg. And like I said, Droll does hurt a lot this early on, so that's why it is important to have it. Because sometimes we do search prior to getting the breakout, and that could cause us to actually not be able to play if they Droll us too early. So we're going into Shadow. This gives us monster effect protection as it changes the effect of a monster to both of us drawing a card, which is really nice. So now in this situation, we're just going to go ahead and normal summon this, activate the effect. We're going to grab the breakout. So this is going to actually give us the minimal amount of monsters possible. If we do make Gabanga earlier, then it gives us more bodies. So breakout, tribute, we'll grab Gone Wild. Gone Wild effect, we'll go ahead and grab the Sploder. Sploder will go ahead and bring back the charge. So now here, we're gonna go ahead and link these 2 off. Then we're gonna go ahead and do Cherubini effect. We're gonna send Graph. So this is like really the only window that hurts the most with Bestials is obviously the cost send for Graph, because you can send Graph for cost, and if they chain Bestial, then they can actually stop the Graph from resolving. But Graph's effect, it gets Sir. So now we're in the position here where we would need the extra name or body just because we don't have that additional extension. And that's what I was saying before, but we're gonna go ahead and just do it this way. We'll do these 3. We're just gonna have to discard for a boa so we won't have the protection. So we'll make Shadow here, effect of Sir to target Cherubini. So we have our guy back. And now we're gonna go ahead and activate a boa, discarding for cost. to go ahead and summon. So we'll banish, and then we'll go ahead and summon the Goblin Biker back. We'll link these two for Bardiche. And then we'll go ahead and use Bardiche effect and get Fog Blade. And we'll just do our standard lines of what we normally do for Cloak for Boots, Trigger Torn, Special. And we really don't need to pitch here just because we already have access to so many traps and names. Effect, pop, bring back 2, make IP, banish. In this situation, I would actually grab Wings just because we have no card in hand and our Boa's coming back. So we can set these two, have access to this, and then Boa comes back. So then now we have the ability to pitch with Boa to discard or summon, and then we can go ahead and have access to everything else. So that's like the standard line if you're not summoning the Goblin Biker. Summoning the Goblin Biker actually makes it completely different, and I can showcase that for you guys as well. All right, so we'll grab best case scenario. So as I was saying, you see how detrimental it could be to see a PK name in hand, because we're only able to send, since we are using Cherubini to send a Burning Abyss monster, you actually lack 1 Phantom Knight name. So if you are able to resolve Bardiche and you never need to use Boa, you're actually going to send Tornscale with Bardiche, and then you'll go ahead and actually bring back the Tornscale with Boa, and then you'll use Tornscale's effect to pitch a card to send Cloak, and then you'll do your line from there. So that's how you get your 2 names. But that's generally, you know, again, if we don't see a Phantom Knight name to discard prior in our combo. So we'll go ahead and just grab 2 random cards. Doesn't matter what they are because we can manage it regardless. So like I said, you know, having that is not the best case, but we have ways to play around it, obviously. So we'll special, go ahead and search. Special this, go ahead and make our Gossip Shadow. So I like to have the protection, and we have a good normal. So normal, special, overlay for Gabanga. Gabanga's effect, we'll go ahead and search for a Doug. Then we'll activate Doug by detaching. Search out Breakout, activate it to summon from hand. I think the only troublesome part is we're actually going to run out of room on our board because of the fact that we drew the Gone Wild. So we'll grab this, we'll grab Gone Wild, we'll go ahead and grab Sploder. So in this situation, you know, for example, if we didn't have the Gossip, we would have full board, but we're always going to try to keep the Goblin Biker on board with our combo. So then we'll go ahead and do these 2 for Cherubini. Cherubini effect to send. So we'll go ahead and send Graph effect to get Sir. So then here, to avoid discarding a card, we're going to go ahead and actually use Merciless to summon by detaching. And then we're going to use these 3 to make Boa. And then we're going to go ahead and do the effect of Sir, targeting Cherubini. And then we'll link these 2 off for Bardiche. Activate Bardiche. We'll send the Blade, so Cloak. And then we'll go ahead and activate Cloak to add gloves. And that will trigger Torn. And then we can use Torn's effect. So we'll send this one. And then we'll go ahead and activate said trap. Summoning, overlay these 2, pop, bring them back as level 4s, link them away into IP, boots, to get us access to a trap. So yeah, so as you can see, it definitely gives us a lot to have access to. Keep it for the Aboa, or there is a way to get a card to your hand if you had less monsters on board. So let's say you decide to search this, you want to keep the Ash. This is our end board. And what's going to happen is at end phase, we're going to go ahead and actually get an attachment under Gabanga. So he'll be live. So we'll go ahead and get Doug Charger underneath. So he will be live in this situation, you know, for us to be able to have additional interruptions. So during our opponent's turn, this is actually a quick effect to detach. So we are able to actually, you know, detach one from Gabanga during our opponent's turn, summon it, and then actually be able to suck something up with Gabanga, pause. And then we can go ahead. And if our board was emptier, so let's say, you know, we had maybe 1 less monster, we could use Sploder. Let's say we didn't make this, so for some reason we have this, and this is off the board. We'll do it like this. So let's say we have room, or he's gone. Actually, even better. We'll just say we never made him. So much, much easier. So we'll use his effect. So we have 2 different options. If you want a card to discard, you can summon Doug Charger off of Sploder during your opponent's turn when you do the detach. He'll search you a card and give you a card to discard off Boa. So during your opponent's turn, you do have the ability to search a card to discard with Boa. If you don't have something to discard, because again, we have an Ash Blossom, so we'll probably want to keep that for our opponent to interrupt them. So you do have the ability to do that. Or instead of getting this, you could actually go for the Gone Wild. So if you summon the Gone Wild instead, it gives us additional interruption because once he leaves the field, he can target any card in the field, spell, trap, or monster, and actually put it under a Goblin XYZ. So you are able to use IP Masquerade's effect. You would link summon into, let's say, SP, and then you can do Chain Link 1, target something, Chain Link 2, target something. So you have an additional interruption. So I like this Goblin engine because it does utilize giving you additional cards or additional interruptions. In the end board, full combo is like 9 interruptions. And this card is insane because what's going to end up happening is also if our opponent isn't able to kill us and we're able to clear most of our cards off our own board, let's say, for example, I decide to use Boa to bring back Cherubini during my opponent's turn, and then I use SP to banish this and this for the turn. And, I Fog Blade the Cherubini so they don't kill me and they kill this. So, let's say we've gone through all our interruptions. Our opponent tried to kill us. We Fog Bladed our Cherubini so they couldn't attack any further. And let's say we use this and it was popped. So our turn ends like this. We would do something like this just because this is free and we can send any level 3. Our end turn comes, we get all 3 of these back. So the SP protects something on our board. Also, Boa can protect itself. So it comes back at the end turn. And that's the primary reason why we're playing Access Code is because a lot of these cards just come back. Like we can do something like this where Boa brings back Cherubini. You keep it protected and then you can just link it off next turn for an Access Code. Also, her effect is insane in this deck because we have so many different names. So when we draw for turn and then we go to our standby phase, we have Fiend, Beast Warrior, Zombie, Warrior, and Cybers. So in this situation, we have the potential to draw 5 cards. And sometimes we do have the potential for more. So let's say, for example, this hit the grave, she's fairy. If he hit the grave, that's spellcaster. So hand traps obviously, change the dynamic of how many cards we're drawing as well. But generally 5 or more cards is what we're usually going to see just because the entire engine for what we're playing for Goblin are all different. We have a Fiend, Beast Warrior, and Warrior, and they're all contingent, cards that we do need that allow us to do our full combo. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And then even then, like these are machine. So you see, you just see the ability to just draw like 5 or 6 cards during your standby phase and then just choose what you want. So like you could just go, 5 or 6 deep plus the card that we have. And then, I want to do my Dia of Bellstar engine. So we'll go ahead and do Black Witch, just because that's going to be the one card we can just send the Fog Blade, summon it, search, send this, make an Omni. But yeah, I really do enjoy this deck. It's actually been really fun to play. It's very consistent. You just need protection because there are really good choke points that do cause you to lose the game. But playing into a board, setting up a board are all very, very good and very, very fun. I also sideboard, just for the format, I actually sideboard a Dagda for Lancia because that's very easy to do for this deck as well as to set up Dagda Lancia because you're able to have the ability to pop 2 cards at your field and Boa can protect Lancia from call by. So if you do it during the main, you are able to, pop your Lancia. So what you can do is during your standby, you can do it off of Bardiche, or you can wait until the main phase to do the Lancia and just go ahead and, do Bardiche. If they call by or try to hit you with the call by, you can Boa, protect it to save it and bring it back. Or you can just, have 2 different ways to pop it. And then I also do Ophion. So because, people are playing Mitsu, people are still playing Fiendsmith. Kriston's a deck now. So there's a lot of different decks that are hurt by the Ophion strategy. So I do also side deck Ophion with the rank up spell. So yeah, it's definitely, you have a lot of options. Obviously Phantom Knights has always been a toolbox based deck. So it is nice to have a lot of options. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the deck profile. I definitely think that this list is the most competitive that Phantom Knights can get right now at this very moment. All the other engines are very susceptible to a lot of the good hand traps that people are playing, as well as Bestials. So I think that this is the best way for us to be able to have the best options that we do need in order to play around, losing to a lot of the better cards. You are able to put in 1 Mag, 1 Druis in the deck as well for crossout if you wanted to, or to have access to extra bodies. So you just have to change around the list a little bit. The Dia Bellstar stuff is definitely optional. You can break it down to 45 if you really wanted to, or supplement those 5 slots for additional crossout targets or consistency with other hand traps. Definitely an option as well. Originally, I was doing 3 Imperm as well with the 1 Nib or 2 Nib and 1 Droll, just to kind of have more options of being able to answer our opponent with the 2 Bestials. There are ways of being able to pretty much have more options, but I wanted more ways of pitching names out of my hand just because of the fact that sometimes you're not always going Torn Boots. Sometimes it's better to just go Doug normal summon, or sometimes you have to do Spearoid Terror Top into Gabanga. So, sometimes you do have to utilize whatever you do have because you only have like one Phantom Knight name or something like that. So yeah, I think that's the best way to utilize the deck. Hope you guys enjoy the deck profile as always. I'm still bringing you guys the Phantom Knight content in 2025, but we're letting the deck live. The deck is surviving. We're getting more options, and we're just trying to make sure that we keep up with the format. So definitely continue to tune in, like and subscribe as always, and I appreciate you guys.